Hey, Mick Hawes from Builders Business Blackbelt. This is video 11 out of 90. So the challenge is for 90 days in a row, 7 days a week, to create a video, some content. It's just a challenge, and the purpose of the challenge is for me to learn specific principles that I think are important for me to learn more deeply, and hopefully at the same time, by doing this and posting it, other people might be able to gain some benefit from it as well. Love to hear any comments or insights. Just put them in the comments. Send me a message if any of this makes sense, if it's helpful, if it's not, if you've got any ideas for improvement. Love to hear it. This video is focused on a thing that I learned, I think, from Dan Sullivan. Went to one of his sessions over in Canada a little while ago, and I happened to be sitting with a guy who was like a physical coach, if you like, a movement, fitness, health type coach for the NFL, many of the NFL players. So that's the American football players over in the United States. And we were talking about this thing called the PPR Cycle, which stands for, and I've got my little iPad-y thing here, it stands for preparation. So preparation, performance, and recovery. And so the fundamental idea that we were being taught was, if you want to better perform, and both the trainer and this guy that just happened to be sitting at my table was the physical trainer, basically was talking about, if you want to perform better, the key is preparation. So, you're working on your skills. So if you're an artist, if a musical artist, an actor, or an athlete, there is preparation that you do before you perform. But also, particularly in the physical side of things, there is a recovery as well. So you prepare, so you train, you do all your training and skills training and all that sort of stuff. And then performance is when you're on stage, when you're on field and playing. And then after that, it's essential for recovery. And what I learned from the guy that was sitting on the table with me was, and it was quite funny because he was talking about players that get paid like $100 million a year. Like, it's massive, amazing money. And then there are guys that get paid $40 million a year, which is still pretty amazing. But this guy, the way he was talking about it, was like the $40 million guys are also rans, paupers almost. But the interesting thing was, he said that the difference in the commitment to both the preparation and particularly the recovery that the $100 million athletes exhibited versus the $40 million athletes was like chalk and cheese. It was almost like he was saying the $40 million athletes didn't really take it all that serious. And he was trying to get across the point that the reason that the $100 million athletes were $100 million athletes was not because of their performance, but obviously their performance was at an incredibly high level. But the reason it was at an incredibly high level was their commitment to their preparation and particularly recovery. And so what we were being taught, and what I took away from that, is that for the most part, in business at least, I was looking at this and how does it apply? How does it overlay in business? And obviously, I work with residential builders. And if you look at how a builder goes about his business, or any business owner goes around their business, they are generally, if I get a red pen, come on, they generally, in fact, I won't do that. I'll use this magic thing here. They generally only focus on the performance. So they get up each day and they just do stuff. And from my experience, there's very little preparation for the day that is committed to. And it's It's a major focus in Builders Business Blackbelt. We have a major focus on a thing called a personal success ritual, which includes a prioritized daily action list. And it's a whole choreographed process that takes 12 to 15 minutes every morning. And it profoundly affects the performance. It profoundly affects the day. So we get into some preparation. But after I learnt this process, I started to think that, hang on, we've got two parts of this process kind of dialed in. So we're looking at preparation with a PSR or with our meetings and so forth. There's specific things, specific agendas and actions that I encourage our guys to take to improve the performance and the effectiveness of a meeting. But I thought, hang on, we don't pay attention to the recovery piece. And so I changed and added to this recovery / so I get my pen here, / analysis. Trust me, that was meant to say analysis. I don't know what happened to my hand just then. But anyway, just imagine that says analysis. And if we have some form of a meeting, an initial meeting with a prospect, we should do some, getting my thingy here, preparation. We should do some preparation for it. And then we have the meeting, which is the performance. And then afterwards, obviously, we don't need the physical recovery, but we do need to do some analysis. What went well? Where was I a bit fuzzy? Where was I unclear? What could I have done better? And that information from the analysis feeds into the preparation for that activity next time. And that could be meetings with your team. It could be putting together a proposal for a client. It's pretty much any single part of your business would improve if you implemented or committed to this preparation, performance, recovery / analysis cycle. And so what I've found is, at best, people will get a cycle that encompasses those two. They'll prepare and they'll perform. They'll prepare and perform. I think that's someone who is really doing their best to improve their business. But if we can add this third piece to the cycle and take some time after a performance, after a meeting, after a phone call, after a conversation with a team member that might be having a bit of trouble, all of those things are performances, and it makes a big difference if we just stop afterwards and do a little bit of analysis and then put what we've learned from our analysis into the preparation for that action next time. It can profoundly affect our performance. Now, the big blinding flash of the obvious for me was this made so much sense, and you could see it happening with performance artists, musicians, actors, people like that, and obviously athletes that compete at the highest level. This made sense, and you can see how that the more they adhere to the PPR cycle, it seems that it really contributes to the quality of their performance, and they seem to be a standout performer. If you really dive deep into the habits of artists and athletes that really stand out, you will find that they are really committed to the recovery and the preparation piece. But when it comes to business, most of the time, all it's about is performance, just doing the do. And there's very little preparation. At best, it becomes a preparation performance cycle. We just prepare and we perform. But very rarely do you see a business person, a builder in particular, paying attention to this recovery / analysis. And the message that I got from the guy who was working with the NFL guys, the $100 million guys and the $40 million guys, it was the attention and detail that they paid to their recovery was the biggest thing. That was the biggest difference that he noticed between the $40 million athletes and the $100 million athletes. So that's video 11, the PPR cycle. I hope it was valuable to you. I'd love to get any comments. Love for you to reach out and message me through LinkedIn. If this is making sense to you, I'd love to have a chat with you. I'm looking to put together a group of business people that are interested in unpacking this sort of stuff and making it part of how they run their business. And if that's something that would resonate with you and something that would be of interest to you, jump on. Let's have a conversation, see where it takes us. No harm, no foul. We've got nothing to lose. I think it's all fantastic stuff, making connections and sharing ideas and trying to help each other. So that is it for video 11. I'll be back with video 12 tomorrow on my way to video 90. I'm going to stick to it. See you later.